You leave certain conversations feeling smaller than when you walked in. Not tired in the good way, tired in a way that has no name. Confused, diminished. Something that was yours when you arrived is no longer yours when you leave, and you cannot say what it is. You have told yourself stories about this for years. She is family. He is an old friend. She is complicated, not bad. We have history. You have built a private philosophy around keeping these people close, and the philosophy sounds like loyalty. It sounds like maturity. It sounds like love. It is none of those things. Carl Jung spent decades watching people fail to become themselves, not because they lacked intelligence or will or insight, but because they were surrounded by the wrong people, specific people, and every attempt they made to grow was silently metabolized by the relationships they refused to examine. Jung called the process of becoming yourself individuation, the slow, often painful work of separating your real self from the roles, the masks, the projections, the inherited scripts. He was clear about one thing: individuation does not happen in isolation. It happens inside a psychic field, and the people closest to you are that field, which means your inner circle is not a group of people you love. It is the soil yourself is trying to grow in, and some soil kills everything that tries to rise from it. This is the part that most people refuse to hear. You are not neutral around the people you let close. You are being shaped, pressured, drained, flattered, mirrored, sabotaged, absorbed, most of it unconscious, on their side and on yours. Jung observed that when two personalities meet, both are transformed. He did not mean it as a compliment. He meant it as a warning. There are 7 psychological types Jung watched disrupt, stall, or outright destroy the individuation of the people near them. Not because they are evil, because they are unconscious. They carry dynamics, projection, parasitism, fusion, sabotage, competition, exploitation, denial, that make the emergence of your real self impossible as long as they stand close to you. You already suspect who they are. You have felt them for years. You have defended them for longer. What you are about to hear is the map of the 7 people who are making it quietly impossible for you to become who you actually are. You believe this person knows you. That is the first lie you will have to give up. What they know is a figure in their own psyche that happens to wear your face. Jung called this projection, the unconscious displacement of one's own unresolved material, shadow, complex, disowned emotion, onto another person. Everyone projects sometimes. That is not the problem. The problem is the chronic projector, the person who cannot stop and who refuses to recognize that they do it at all. You have met them. You know the pattern even if you never had a name for it. They accuse you of exactly what they do. They call you cold on the day they shut down. They call you controlling when they are arranging every detail of your life. They call you dishonest in the exact moment they are hiding something. When you point this out, the wall goes up. No, you really are like that. I am not projecting. Jung was precise about this. He observed that projection only becomes pathological when it is rigid and unconscious. When the person insists the flaw is in you, not in them, and resists every piece of evidence to the contrary. At that point, he wrote, the relationship becomes something other than a relationship. It becomes a stage, and you are cast in a role you never auditioned for. Here is what that does to you over time. You stop speaking freely, because every sentence is evidence in a trial you did not know you were on. You start pre-defending. You rehearse conversations. You notice yourself apologizing for feelings you did not have, for intentions that were never yours. And slowly, this is the dangerous part, you begin to wonder if they are right. Maybe you are the cold one. Maybe you are the problem. This is how projection colonizes its target, not in a single accusation, but in the accumulated weight of 1,000 small ones until you lose the ability to distinguish their shadow from your own face. The tragedy is that the chronic projector will never actually meet you. They are in a relationship with an internal figure. You are just the surface it happens to be aimed at. Every conversation you have had, every fight, every reconciliation, all of it took place between them and something inside themselves that they refuse to turn around and look at. Jung was blunt about what it takes to stop projecting, a confrontation with one's own shadow, a long, unflattering, humiliating descent into the parts of the psyche one has spent a lifetime denying. Almost no one does this work voluntarily. You cannot do it for them. You cannot argue them out of it. You cannot love them into it. So you stay, and you get smaller, and the figure they fight with grows larger, and eventually the person you actually are disappears behind the mask their unconscious has pinned to your chest. But projection is only the first way someone can hollow you out. There is another type who does not distort you at all. They simply consume you, slowly, relentlessly, until there is nothing left to distort. If this content is making sense to you, click the subscribe button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for your support. You have been told that love requires sacrifice, that real relationships cost something, that giving without keeping score is what it means to care about another human being. This is the sentence the emotional vampire needs you to believe. Jung observed a specific kind of psychic configuration, a self that is fragmented, porous, unable to generate its own energy from within. People like this are not evil. They are not calculating. They are simply running on a deficit they cannot name, and the only way they know how to fill it is to draw from the person closest to them. Not occasionally, constantly. You know the physical sensation of being near one. You leave every encounter tired in a way that sleep does not fix. Not stimulated, not challenged, not moved, just depleted. You arrive full, and you leave empty, and you cannot point to the moment the transfer happened. The crisis is always there. It has been there for years. It has different names: the job, the family, the health scare, the betrayal. But it is always the same shape. It requires you. It requires you now. It cannot wait until morning. And when you are the one in pain, something shifts. The phone takes longer to ring back. The attention wanders. The conversation finds its way, somehow, back to them within 90 seconds. You learn, slowly, not to bring your pain into the room. You learn that this relationship has one weather system, and it is not yours. Jung would say, this person has not built a self. They have built a mouth, and a mouth cannot love you. It can only feed. Here is the part you need to sit with. You have been calling your exhaustion loyalty. You have been calling your silence generosity. You have been calling your depletion love. None of those words are accurate. What you have been doing is keeping another person alive at the cost of your own vitality, and you have been calling that virtue. Jung understood that individuation requires a specific fuel, psychic energy, libido in his older sense of the word, the raw current that runs through every act of becoming. You only get so much of it in a day, in a decade, in a life. Every hour you spend being siphoned is an hour that did not go into your own emergence, the book you did not write, the conversation you did not have with yourself, the direction your life did not turn because you were too tired to notice the turn was there. The vampire does not know they are doing this. That is what makes it so hard to leave. There is no villain to point to, no moment of cruelty to cite. There is only the slow fact that you are dimmer now than you were 5 years ago, and they are exactly as bright. Distance is not cruelty here. It is restitution. You are not abandoning them. You are refusing to keep funding a life that was never going to feed you back. But draining is not the only way someone can hold you in place. There is a more subtle sabotage, one that does not take from you at all. It waits. It watches. And the moment you start to rise, it tightens its grip. You have been taught that the people who love you want what is best for you, that care and support are the same thing, that if someone has stayed by your side for years, their presence is evidence of goodwill. None of that is necessarily true. Some of the most durable relationships in your life are held together by something far less flattering than love. Jung saw it clearly. Certain bonds are built on stagnation. They are structured around an unspoken agreement that neither person will change. Change is the one thing the relationship cannot survive. You only discover the agreement when you try to break it. You start to grow. You read differently. You speak differently. You want something you did not want before. And the person who has been beside you for a decade looks at you with an expression you have never seen on their face and says one of the small sentences designed to pull you back down. You have changed. You think you are better than us now. This is not really you. That sentence is not a description. It is a correction. Jung was explicit about this in The Development of Personality. He observed that the emergence of a real self is disruptive, not just to the individual, but to everyone arranged around them. A new personality breaks old contracts. It rearranges who holds power in a friendship, who needs whom, who plays which role. The people who benefited from the old arrangement feel the rearrangement as a threat, even when they cannot articulate what has been taken from them. So, they pull. Not with open hostility, with something quieter. They remind you of the version of yourself they preferred. They bring up old mistakes at strategic moments. They celebrate your small failures a little too warmly, and your larger successes a little too coolly. They offer comfort when you are struggling, and distance when you are thriving. They love you best when you are slightly broken, and they cannot quite hide it. This is the pattern you need to watch. Not isolated moments, the overall shape. Who shows up when you are at your lowest, and who quietly disappears when you are at your highest? That asymmetry is data. It is the map of a relationship that was never built to hold you in your fullness. Jung used the word vocation for the pull toward becoming who you actually are. He described it as a kind of inner demon, a voice that will not let you rest in the smaller version of yourself. If you listen to it, something in you begins to rise, and the people whose attachment to you was contingent on your smallness will feel that rising as a betrayal. It is not a betrayal. It is the thing you were born to do. The hardest part is this. The growth saboteur is often not a villain in any other dimension of their life. They may be kind. They may be funny. They may have shown up for you in ways you still remember. That is what makes them so effective at keeping you small. You cannot dismiss them. You cannot frame them as an enemy. You keep giving them the benefit of the doubt, and every time you do, you pay for it with a piece of your own becoming. But there is a relationship even more insidious than the one that pulls you back. There is the one that will not let you be separate at all. The one that calls merger love and names every boundary a wound. If what you're hearing resonates with you, you'll find real value in my ebooks. Beyond the Shadow breaks down Jung's core ideas, while Dialogues with the Unconscious gives you a 30-day path to apply them in your life. Both are linked in the pinned comment. You have been told that love is losing yourself in another person. That the deepest bond is the one where you can no longer tell where you end and they begin. Every song, every film, every inherited script has whispered it to you since childhood. Merger is the highest form of intimacy. It is not. It is the oldest obstacle to becoming yourself, and Jung named it directly. Individuation means becoming an individual, a unit that cannot be further divided. The work of a life is to emerge as a separate self from the undifferentiated mass you were born into, the family, the collective, the inherited psyche. You arrive in the world, fused. You are supposed to leave fused with no one. The emotionally fused person has not done that work. They do not know who they are without you. Their identity runs on your presence, the way a lamp runs on current. Cut the current, and something in them goes dark. This is not love. This is a circuitry problem. You notice it first in small ways. You have a different opinion about something minor, and the room changes temperature. You want to spend an evening alone, and they take it as abandonment. You mention a friend they do not know, and you feel the invisible wall going up. A separate thought, a separate plan, a separate feeling. Each one registers in them as a small death. So you stop having them. You edit yourself before you speak. You soften your preferences until they disappear. You begin to describe your life using the word we in places where you used to say I, and you do not notice when the switch happened. The merger feels like closeness at first. Then it feels like home. Then, much later, it feels like a room with no windows, and you cannot remember agreeing to live there. Jung was unsparing about what this does to the psyche. A self that cannot differentiate, cannot individuate. The two are the same movement. To become yourself, you must first become visible as separate. To yourself, to the other, to the world. The fused person blocks that movement not through malice, but through collapse. Every time you move toward autonomy, they fall apart, and your autonomy costs too much, so you stop moving. This is how whole decades disappear, not in dramatic captivity, in small daily accommodations, each one reasonable on its own, each one shaving another millimeter off the self that was trying to emerge. By the time you look up, you do not have opinions anymore. You have positions you have negotiated. You do not have preferences. You have compromises that hardened into personality. The hardest truth about fusion is that it is often reciprocal. You did not only suffer it, you needed it too. There was a part of you that found the dissolution easier than the separation, that preferred the merger to the terrifying work of being a distinct person in the world. You have to see this clearly, because leaving fusion is not just about leaving them. It is about leaving the version of you that required them. Differentiation is not betrayal. It is the beginning of a self that can finally be loved for what it actually is, rather than for what it agreed to become. But there is another person close to you whose presence corrodes you in a completely different way. They do not want to merge with you. They want to beat you, and they cannot rest until they do. You have been told that envy has no place in real friendship, that the people who truly love you will celebrate your wins without reservation, that jealousy between intimates is a sign something has gone wrong. So when you feel it in the room, that thin, almost invisible chill after you share good news, you explain it away. You tell yourself you imagined it. You tell yourself they are just tired. You tell yourself a friend of 10 years could not possibly resent you. You are not imagining it. Jung understood this dynamic through the architecture of the inferiority complex, a part of the psyche that feels permanently and unfixably beneath. Not beneath in this or that domain, beneath as a condition of being. The person who carries this wound cannot tolerate evidence that someone near them is rising, because every rise is a re-wounding. Your success is not a neutral event. It is a mirror held up to everything they have failed to become. They cannot break the mirror. So they break the moment. You tell them about the promotion. There is a pause that lasts a beat too long. Then, that's great. Though honestly, that company has been overrated for years. You tell them about the relationship. I'm happy for you. Just be careful. You tend to move fast. You tell them about the book, the run, the idea, the offer. There is always a sentence that arrives half a second after the congratulations, and that sentence is the real message. Over time, you learn the protocol. You announce your wins in a smaller voice. You preface them with self-deprecation. You offer up a small failure first, as tribute, Before mentioning anything good, you become a diplomat of your own life, constantly negotiating with the fragility of someone who was supposed to be on your side. And you notice the inverse. When you suffer, they come alive, not cruelly, just a little more present, a little more generous with time. The calls last longer when you are losing. This is the part of the pattern most people cannot name out loud, because naming it feels like a betrayal. But it is the part that tells you everything. Jung would say this person has not integrated their shadow. They carry their own sense of inadequacy as an unbearable weight, and the only temporary relief is the demonstration that someone near them is also inadequate. Or better, that someone who seemed to be rising has now fallen. Your struggle soothes them. Your flourishing assaults them. They cannot help it, and they will not admit it. What this does to you is subtle and enormous. You stop showing them your real life. You curate. You omit. You present a version of yourself scaled down to the size they can tolerate. And a relationship in which you cannot be fully seen, where the fullness of your becoming has to be hidden to preserve the bond, is not a friendship. It is a performance. And performances exhaust the performer. Jung was clear that individuation requires witnesses, people who can see you expand and remain themselves in the room. People whose selves are intact enough to hold your growth without collapsing, flinching, or competing. If the person across from you cannot do that, they are not your peer. They are your audience in the wrong direction, waiting for the fall, dimming the lights every time you reach for the switch. But there are relationships where the asymmetry is no longer even hidden, where the exchange has collapsed so completely that you are no longer a person in it. You are a function. And there are relationships where the ground itself has been removed, where you no longer trust your own perception of what is happening. These are the last two, and they are the ones you have protected the longest. You have been keeping accounts for years. You did not mean to. You never wanted to be the kind of person who tracks what they give. But somewhere along the way, you noticed. You know the details of their life. They know the headline of yours. You remember the names of their co-workers, the timeline of their heartbreak, the exact shape of their anxiety. Ask them what you are struggling with this month, and they will guess wrong. They are not cruel. They are just never looking in your direction. This is the zero-reciprocity relationship. Jung saw it as a specific kind of arrangement, one where you are not a person at all, but a function. You are the listener, the rescuer, the one who shows up. You have a role, and the role has no off switch. The moment you stop performing it, the relationship reveals what it always was. A transaction in which only one person was being paid. The test is simple, and you have been avoiding it. Express a need, not a small one, a real one. Watch what happens. Watch how the conversation finds its way back to them. Watch the vague sympathy that lasts 30 seconds before the subject changes. You already know what you will find. You have run the test unconsciously 100 times. You just refuse to read the result. And then there is the last one. The one that does not drain you or compete with you or use you. The one that unmakes the ground you stand on. The reality denier. The person who rewrites what happened yesterday with such confidence that you begin to doubt your own memory. Who insists they never said the thing you heard them say, never did the thing you watched them do. You bring evidence. The evidence is dismissed. You bring your feelings. Your feelings are pathologized. After enough of these encounters, you stop trusting the instrument that measures reality, your own mind. Jung understood that individuation is not a private hallucination. It requires contact with what is actually there. A self cannot emerge in a hall of mirrors. If the person closest to you is constantly distorting the shared record of what is happening between you, they are not just lying. They are dismantling the only tool you have for becoming real. This is the hardest one to leave, because by the time you recognize it, you no longer trust your recognition. Now stand back and look at all 7 together. the projector who never sees you, the vampire who drains you, the saboteur who needs you small, the fused one who cannot let you be separate, the competitor who cannot let you rise, the zero-reciprocity partner who cannot see you at all, the reality denier who unmakes your perception. These are not 7 different problems. They are 7 doors into the same room. The room is the one where your self cannot grow. Here is the truth you have been circling for the entire video. You have not been loyal. You have been complicit. You have traded your individuation for the preservation of relationships that required you to stay small, fragmented, compliant, confused. You called it kindness. You called it history. You called it family. Jung would call it what it is: a slow, quiet sacrifice of the person you were supposed to become. You do not owe anyone your unbecoming. Not a decade of friendship, not a blood tie, not a promise made by a version of you who did not yet know what it would cost. The inner circle is not a democracy. It is the soil your self grows in, and you are allowed, you are required, to choose the soil. The next step is not dramatic. You will not cut everyone tomorrow, but something has already shifted in you, just from reading this. A name has been placed on something you had been feeling for years without language. That naming cannot be undone. You will walk into your next conversation with one of these 7 people, and you will hear the pattern. You will feel it in your body before they finish the sentence. That is the beginning. Leave a comment naming which of the 7 you recognized most clearly. Not to expose anyone, but to admit what you already know. And then, keep going. What has opened in you tonight does not close in one sitting. There is more of this to face, and some part of you already understands that you are not done.